Good day everyone, and welcome back. After some much needed rest, I'm about to finish Anita Sarkeesian's latest trope video, even though I really don't want to. Now, where did I leave off?
In her essential book, Sister Citizen, Melissa Harris Perry explores how myths about black women's sexuality were deliberately perpetuated by white people as a way of rationalizing their cruel and dehumanizing treatment of female slaves.
I actually hate it when she talks about actual history, because there's not a whole lot for me to say. I'm no history major or anything, but everything I do know leads me to believe that she's not wrong about the topic. But if my knowledge and her words conflict, you can bet I'd look it up.
The myth of black women as lascivious, seductive, and insatiable was a way of reconciling the forced public exposure and commoditization of black women's bodies with the Victorian ideals of women's modesty and fragility.
I agree as well. Shallow and pedantic.
The idea that black women were hypersexual beings created space for white moral superiority by justifying the brutality of Southern white men.
Can you tell I'm not even trying anymore? Because you'd be wrong. I'm about to go look up that author for you. So you can see up here, I typed in her name, I didn't do anything to it. We've got melissaharrisperry.com. She fancies herself an intellectual. You know, I'm almost definitely gonna prove that to be incorrect. Let's check her Wikipedia. Melissa Harris Perry is an American writer, professor, television host, and political commentator with a focus on African American politics. You know, I think I'll go get that video now. I'm sure many of you have already seen this, but up until just a couple of days ago, I had no idea who this woman was, and it's nice to have a name to connect to the face.
But let's be fair. If there's somebody who is a hard worker, when he goes to Washington, is Paul Ryan. Not only works with the Republicans, but Democrats. You know very well that I work on the immigration issue, trying to get Republicans to support immigration reform. Paul Ryan is somebody who has supported immigration reform, has worked with somebody like Luis Gutierrez. Luis Gutierrez is very respectful, speaks highly of Paul Ryan. This is somebody who's trying to govern.
Alfonso, I feel you.
I get that it's your show, but come on, let the man make his point. It's also pretty unprofessional to not only interrupt your guest, but to do so with the words, "I feel you."
But I just want to pause on one thing, because I don't disagree with you that I actually think Mr. Ryan is a great choice for this role. But I want us to be super careful when we use the language hard worker, because, I mean, I actually keep an image of folks working in cotton fields on my office wall.
This is not out of character for someone who chooses to focus on African American politics, but I highly doubt that this is a healthy thing to look at every day.
Because it is a reminder about what hard work looks like. So I feel you that he's a hard worker. I do, but in the context of relative privilege.
Oh, did I mention that she's a feminist?
And I just want to point out that when you talk about work-life balance and being a hard worker, the moms who don't have health care, who are working on...
I understand that.
But we don't call them hard workers. We call them failures. We call them people who are sucking off the system. No, really, y'all do.
More unprofessionalism from the feminist journalist or news reporter or whatever she was doing at the time. Come on. Y'all? On national television? I might not expect much from today's feminists or black activists, but when you make it into one of the larger networks, you should be expected to use professional terms and phrases, especially in a televised debate.
That is really what you guys do as a party.
That is very unfair. I think we cannot generalize about the Republican Party. I agree.
That's true. Not all Republicans. That is certainly true.
Romney did a terrible job about connecting with the middle class. But if Paul Ryan...
And I swear to God, that's where the video cuts off. I actually kind of wanted to see the rest of the discussion, but whatever. Back to Anita.
These false, harmful stereotypes and their tragic impact have remained alive through the centuries and into the present day.
Only true racists believe anything that you're talking about, Anita, and they are few in number. The vast majority of people see no difference from one race to the next, outside of obvious cultural differences. As per the usual, you've taken a small segment of the United States and are making them out to be representatives of all straight white men. It's unfair to do to blacks, Asians, and Hispanics, so why is it fair to do to us? Answer: It isn't, and you're a racist and a sexist for doing it.
Throughout most of American history, up to and including much of the 20th century, the sexual assault and rape of black women by white men was almost never treated as a crime.
The sins of my father are not mine to bear, Anita. The history of all nations are tainted with what we now consider atrocities and violations of human rights. The U.S. has moved beyond that, except for feminists and race baiters.
In her book, Dark Continent of Our Bodies, historian Frances E. White...
Fuck, I really don't want to look up another author that I'm immediately sure is a feminist. So for the first time after watching this video for like 6 times, I realized that it says on the cover of the fucking book, feminism. So that was a stupid thing for me to say, and I admit it in full view of you all.
says, virtually no legal protection was provided for women who were portrayed as loose and licentious.
I agree as well. Shallow and pedantic.
I swear, doing these videos is gonna make me hate that joke.
Under such conditions, black women, promiscuous by definition, found it nearly impossible to convince the legal establishment that men of any race should be prosecuted for sexually assaulting them. The rape of black women was simply no crime at all.
Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's see who this E. Frances White person is. Okay, after doing only some reading of this page, I immediately have at least a little more respect for Miss White, or Mrs. White, I don't know, than I did for Melissa Harris. You can see here that she is actually faculty, professor of history and black studies at Gallatin in the Department of Social and Cultural Analysis, and in the Faculty of Arts and Science. In the interest of time constraints, I have elected to cut the rest of that video. None of it's really important. She's a reasonably respectable professor, so just run with that. Okay, my conclusion is that she's a reputable author as well as a professor. I can see why Anita chose this book for this video, but simply citing the works of another does not give you credibility, Anita. You've proven time and time again that you are dishonest and a manipulator of information.
Obviously, the problem here is not with the idea of representing women who come from tribal cultures. Our media absolutely should reflect the cultural diversity of the world we live in.
So, how is representing the cultures and traditions of both historical and modern-day tribes a racist trope? You can't just point at depictions of people and cry racism. You need a valid argument as to why they are racist. Thus far, I have seen none. I've only seen you picking out depictions of various black individuals from games where the developers have elected to give them representation of their heritage and simply state that doing so is racist. Now you flip-flop on that and say that giving these characters stories related to tribal culture is important, but it has to be just the right amount of representation or it's racist. My brain hurts. Moving on.
But that's not what characters like these do, at all. These are not respectful, well-researched representations of actual cultures.
Not well researched, you say. Do you remember earlier when you said this?
In Diablo 3, there are 6, soon to be 7 classes to choose from, but only one of them is represented by black characters, the Witch Doctor, employing just about every visual stereotype about tribal warriors in the book. Elaborate piercings, skull masks and body paint, and carrying voodoo dolls and shrunken heads as items of power. The Witch Doctor is a caricature of tribal identity rooted in centuries-old racist imagery.
Or how about this?
In Street Fighter 4, Elena wears, well, she wears almost nothing. But the bands that she wears on her arms, legs, and neck vaguely suggest African tribal culture, and she possesses that stereotypical character trait of a mystical connection to the earth.
Both of these characters are rather accurate depictions of tribal culture, Anita. Just because you see a black person being represented in a traditional manner does not make it racist. Witch doctors are a thing, and mystical connections are a thing. You don't get to pick and choose here. It's been said before, but you are not the one creating these games, and you have no right to restrict someone else's creative vision. I can't say for Street Fighter, but I do know that Bethesda's representation of witch doctors was researched well enough to provide a moderately accurate analog for true tribal culture. I know people have been watching my videos without commenting, and I don't fault you for not providing input so far. But in this case, I am directly asking you, the viewer, Is it or is it not racist to represent moderately accurate depictions of true tribal belief and culture in a video game? Is it racist to exclude them when they have no sensible reason to be there? Okay, everyone, I tried to splice it in and hide my mistake. I'm not even gonna lie. I said Bethesda, referring to Diablo 3. It was just a simple brain fart, I guess we'll call it. I know it's Blizzard. I know. Don't fucking correct me in the comments. I know I fucked up.
Rather, they represent a form of cultural appropriation.
Everybody knows you never go full retard. You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
The idea of cultural appropriation is, you guessed it, retarded. For the whole of recorded history, people have been sharing cultures, Anita. The Silk Road? Sharing. The East India Trading Company? Sure, they had some questionable business models, but they connected the known world in a way that was previously unheard of. The internet? We've never been more connected and able to share our cultures with one another. I receive more information in a single day about the rest of the world, my own country even, than peasants back in the day got in entire years, or even their whole life. Cultural appropriation is a good thing, as it informs us about the rest of the world and connects us with people different to us. You may think that connecting with others is a bad thing up there in your ivory tower, but the rest of us love sharing cultures.
When a dominant culture exploits and often profits from the history, culture, or traditions of a marginalized group.
When it comes to trading, someone always gains something. In the case of video games, the companies gain money by appealing to the various demographics who consume their media. And the marginalized groups that you speak of gain that representation that you and your ilk love to talk about. It won't be perfect, of course, but it's there. It doesn't have to be perfect because anyone who knows anything about you people knows that you are never satisfied. You will never be happy with anything because offense is essentially your currency.
Like a white person putting on a sombrero and a fake mustache, grabbing a bottle of tequila and saying they're going as a Mexican for Halloween.
As a person with Mexican blood, you have my permission and full consent to do this. It's fun, and you're free to do it if only for the sole purpose of pissing off people like Anita.
These offensive and embarrassing depictions.
They're not offensive unless you take offense at everything. I laugh my ass off when I see your typical depiction of a Mexican. The poncho, the mustache, the tequila. It's fucking hilarious.
Reduce rich cultures down to a few stereotypical signifiers.
I said in my last video about Anita that writing a single person as a whole person is difficult. It's multiple times harder to include every facet of a culture. So, for the sake of both time constraints and reasonable inclusion of information, both individuals and cultures are boiled down to be only what is needed for the plot or the joke.
Mystical powers, skimpy, tattered clothing, body paint, and racialized hypersexualization are used as shorthand for exotic.
Shorthand is generally less of a mouthful than the original phrase, Anita. Just for fun, I'm going to analyze all of those little things again, mostly because I'm that kind of asshole. Mystical powers. 2 of the 3 characters you brought up have those powers. And you know, they fit the character. Skimpy clothing. Still makes sense. Sheva is part of a tribe. What's-her-name from Street Fighter is part of a tribe. And Citra is part of a tribe. Within the stories of these characters, it is perfectly reasonable for them to want to not only hold on to these tribal traditions, but to fully display them with pride. Body paint. Referring back to my last point, body paint is actually a part of many tribal cultures, and it is not racist to include it. If anything, it shows both knowledge and respect for the cultures to include what is quite a large part of the culture. Racialized hypersexualization. Oh god, a 2-parter. Racialized? I think not. This is regular sexual display, or simple practicality. I've neglected so far to mention the practical function that skin pigments serve. They are there to protect our skin from the harmful radiation of the sun. It is culturally common for people with darker pigmentation to not see any need to cover up for protection or modesty. The fact that you were applying your own Eurocentric standards of both modesty and sexualization to people from actual tribes is quite racist, don't you think? And now for the real meat of the sexualization issue. These characters do not seem to care about their skin being on display, when in fact they put it on display of their own free will. Why is it that third-wave feminists are so sex negative? These women are choosing to display their bodies with pride and without shame. And just because you view their bodies as something inherently sexual, you think they should cover up? How very progressive of you to say that what another woman chooses for herself is wrong.
As a result, these signifiers reinforce extremely false and damaging stereotypes about the people and cultures that they're appropriating.
These quote-unquote stereotypes are not stereotypes at all. They are parts of the stories of these fictional characters, and they are not damaging to anyone.
These false, harmful myths and stereotypes continue to contribute to the marginalization and oppression of women of color in America today.
No, they don't. You think that just because I see a character in a video game wearing traditional tribal attire that I think black women go home from their regular job and throw on a bikini and loincloth? How fucking stupid and racist do you think people are, Anita? And how in the actual fuck do fictional representations of African tribes oppress actual living people?
For instance, in her book, The Politics of Disgust,
Oh, god damn it, not another book. Let's just get this over with.
feminist theorist Anne-Marie Hancock discusses how racial stereotypes about black women contribute to a political system in which the marginalized continue to be underserved, oppressed, and unheard.
Racist stereotypes only contribute in the sense that the elected officials of this nation are old, and were likely around when the racism that we're talking about was a thing. You would think that their policies will likely reflect that. However, they have implemented social systems where those in need can have some help. Doesn't seem very underserving to me. If you want black people to have no need to work and contribute simply because they're black, congratulations, you're a racist. If you think black people are oppressed by virtue of their skin color, you're a social justice warrior and there's nothing I can do to get through to you. I'm not that guy. I'm an asshole with a computer and a microphone, but we already know that Anita is an SJW, and that she doesn't bother with criticism because she believes that she's right and we're all just racists and misogynists for not agreeing with her immediately. And finally, black people are being heard. The issue is that the loudest voices among them are just like yours, Anita. They want revenge on the white man, even though neither they nor I were alive to experience any of it. From slavery to the civil rights movement, none of us had anything to do with it, and I will not pay my hard-earned money to a bunch of whiny, racist crybabies. Alright, with my rant out of the way, let's go take a look at that feminist author who wrote that shit. Alright, so what I've read so far leads me to believe that she is your typical academian feminist. Let's see. Faculty profile, don't care about that. Expert on political engagement, African American politics, Black Latino relations, and women in politics. Doesn't that sound racially and sexually charged? Founder and CEO. Resist. I'm going to go with resist because that's what these feminists are all about. Resist the patriarchy. Smash the patriarchy. And then, let's see, down here is the Big Think article that I clicked on to read about her. So, Anne-Marie Hancock, author of Solidarity Politics for Millennials, A Guide to Ending the Oppression Olympics. I wonder if she knows that her work is being used to further the Oppression Olympics. Skipping over the rest of that, I already read it. It's some bullshit. You can pause and read if you want to, but I don't care. Over the past 8 years, Professor Hancock has authored 2 books and 11 articles. I wonder what those books and articles are about. She is a globally recognized scholar of the study of intersectionality. The study of the intersections of race, gender, and class, and sexuality politics, and their impact on public policy. Her first book, The Politics of Disgust and the Public Identity of the Welfare Queen, apparently written in 2004, won 2 national awards. Well, what I take away from that is that having all the books, articles, and awards doesn't stop one from being an ideologue. Race is one of the simplest things out there to deal with. Don't give a shit about it. It's that simple.
We very rarely see portrayals of women of color in games that incorporate the cultural history of those characters in honest, respectful ways.
So, including several parts of a culture are not honest or respectful. I'm having a hard time even following this, much less make an argument against it. Maybe that's the secret to feminist debate tactics. Spew a bunch of bullshit, say it's sexist and racist, and then before the debate opponent even has a chance to properly comprehend what you just said, switch topics before they even begin to formulate a response.
In many ways, Alex Vance from Half-Life 2 and its follow-up episodes is a great character, and it's good to see a non-sexualized woman of color in such a prominent role. But the game isn't concerned with her cultural background. Nilin, the biracial protagonist of Remember Me, is a sexualized female protagonist.
Wait. How is she sexualized? Because all I see is a woman wearing some pants and a couple of shirts. Is it because she's attractive? Is every attractive woman sexualized to you people?
But the sexualization doesn't employ racist tropes. Like Alex, her cultural background is treated as irrelevant.
Because it is. Cultural background is only relevant to the character if it's relevant to the character in their own mind. I've never played either of these games, but I'm going to assume that neither character makes a big deal over the fact that their skin is brown.
Unfortunately, there aren't many positive examples of women of color in games whose cultural history isn't erased but also isn't presented as the stuff of racist stereotypes.
Because that is a ridiculously thin line to walk when you've got an entire game to shape around not only one character, but potentially hundreds of others, and varying amounts of lore to work from.
And that's a shame, because characters whose cultural background is incorporated honestly and respectfully can work to challenge the deeply racist status quo.
Of course you think that it's deep. People aren't even half as racist as you people seem to think that we are. From that point, Anita talks about a few games that I know nothing about, so I cut it. The idea is that they're not racist depictions of culture, which surprised me, but I have nothing else to say, so let's get on to the shit that I can talk about.
This kind of respectful treatment of cultural history and traditions should be the norm.
It is if you stop looking at all depictions of black people in every setting as racist. Feminism has ruined your perception of everything, Anita.
But instead, games more often just plunder marginalized cultures with no sense of respect and no concern whatsoever about accurately reflecting the people and traditions they're appropriating from.
Hang on, I have a thing to share with you that you won't be able to see in the actual video, so let's go over to my screen cap. Okay, I just have to pause right here and bring to your attention that she's fucking smirking. Look at that fucking smirk that she's holding back right there. She is loving this race-baiting bullshit. Now, back to what she actually said. All of the examples that you've given are historically accurate and well-researched, unlike your videos. Just because you think that any depiction of a tribal African is racist does not make it so.
To put it simply, it's not okay for games to reduce these cultures to stereotypical costumes and personality traits in an effort to add a bit of exotic flair to their worlds.
Yes, it is. Art does not have to be something that you or anyone else approves of. It is what the artist wants it to be, and you have no power or right to say it should be any different.
It should not be too much to ask for and expect representations of people of color whose cultural backgrounds are acknowledged and woven into their characters in ways that are thoughtful, validating, and humanizing.
So make your own fucking game, Anita. Make it whatever fucking intersectional, fully representative pile of shit that you want it to be. But stay the hell away from other people's idea of fun. The multimedia clips included in this video constitutes a fair use of any copyrighted material as provided for in Section 107 of U.S. copyright law, which allows for criticism, comment, and scholarship. And just as a final fuck you, I'd like to bring everyone's attention to the fact that there are 4 screen lengths worth of names at the end of Anita's video. 14 lines per page with 2 names per line except for the last one. And all of these names, if I'm being generous, appear and disappear over the course of 7 fucking seconds. Shows how much Anita cares about her benefactors to only give them 7 seconds of airtime out of a 12-minute video after they made her one of the most infamous people on the internet. And with all of that out of the way, I think I'm going to go back to my previous self-promise of not doing a feminist frequency video for the foreseeable future. I feel that after all the hell I went through to get this done and uploaded for my admittedly non-existent audience, I've earned some more shamefully shameless self-promotion. Please consider subscribing. I've made some serious efforts to get a new video up every single day to beat the new algorithm. Also, you can contact me on Twitter, my personal subreddit, or email the address in the description. Also, if you like my content, please consider contributing to my Patreon. You can help me really get this channel going with as little as $1 a month. And if you know anyone who might enjoy this particular brand of asshole, please share it with them, as I need every view I can get. Well, thanks everyone for joining me today. This video was a particular pain in the dick to make. I certainly hope you enjoyed the end product, as it's been 12 hours almost to the minute since I ran into this stupid technical error and had to find a workaround. I'm just glad I didn't have to reread all of my scripted responses and try to remember the improvised ones. And with that pain in the ass monologue out of the way, I sincerely hope you have a good one, and hope you will join me for my next video.